Yo guys, what's up? I hope y'all are having a good day, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be making a tier list of all of the rank 2 ground vehicles in the US tech tree. As you can see, there aren't very many of them, so I'm going to try to go into a bit more detail in this video to talk about these tanks and what are their pros and cons. Before we jump into this video, I'm going to beg for a subscription and a like, but only if you enjoy. And also, if you disagree or agree, let me know in the comments. I would love to know what you guys think. And yeah, let's jump straight into this. So starting off with the M3 Lee, this is quite an interesting tank in this game. It gets a 75mm with APHE with 97 pen. 97 pen at 2.7 BR is actually really good. This cannon can take out basically anything you meet. Only downside is it's hull mounted, so you don't have a turret with it, and it has pretty limited gun traverse. So it's kind of hard to aim. Another annoying thing about it is that when you do aim this thing, you actually aim through the 37mm. So it's a little bit tricky to get used to. But if you do hit something, it's pretty devastating. And speaking of this 37mm, it gets a solid AP shot with 79 penetration. So that's actually pretty solid too. That'll deal with most things. It's just not going to do a ton of damage. And then finally, this thing is also equipped with two 7.62 machine guns, which can help against SPAAs. Pretty fun to play, but it's not that good. As far as armor goes on this thing, you get about 60 effective on the hull and about 90 on the turret up here. So the turret's pretty strong. Then you got a weak point on the hull here that's only 40mm thick. And as you can see in X-ray view here, there is a whole heap of people in this thing. So you usually don't get one-shotted, but it's definitely possible. So yeah, that's the basic breakdown of the M3 Lee. It's a very unique tank. It can be fun, but it's kind of hard to get used to. It has a little bit of armor, has decent survivability, two guns that are both pretty effective. I mean, the 37 does fall off at around 2.7, but it still can work against lighter tanks. This might surprise you, but I'm actually going to put this thing in bad because I think that every other tank here is so much better than the M3 Lee. It's just kind of hard to play and awkward. Okay, moving on to the M4. Okay, the M4A1 is a absolute classic tank. It gets a 50 cal on top, which is great for shooting at planes. It also gets a 7.62 in the turret, and this thing's main cannon is the 75mm M3 cannon, which gets a APHE shot with 104 penetration. As far as armor goes on this thing, it's okay, but it's actually not great. The lower hull is about 70 to 80 millimeters effective straight on, and the turret's about 90. So those two parts are okay, but the problem with this thing is this side piece right here. If you angle this thing at all, or even if you don't, this is only 50 millimeters. And if you look at it from the side, 40. That's like the big weakness of this thing. It's very easy to penetrate no matter what, unless it's hull down. And this thing has two BR jumps over the M3 Lee, so you're going to get penetrated pretty easily. Another thing to mention with this tank is that it's stabilized up to 15 or 20 kilometers an hour. I can't quite remember which, but that is a huge help in lower BRs. It gets a ton of points for that. Also, a quick mention, I had a 22 kill game in this thing. Make sure you guys check that out. It is my all-time record in this game. It's just such a OG tank, but the armor could use some work. So I'm going to put it in great. Okay, moving on to the M4. This one sits at 3.7, so it's 1 BR jump. Essentially the same tank as the previous one, except one big difference is the armor. It doesn't have the rounded edges anymore, and it also has a couple extra millimeters of armor on the front compared to the previous tank. So you can angle in this thing effectively. Same turret armor, but yeah, this is just a huge upgrade. It's got the same gun, nothing too different. It's only really the armor. This thing's really good. So I'm going to put the M4 in amazing. It's the perfect tank for 3.7. It has the same stabilizer as well. And okay, moving on to the M4A2. Okay, so the M4A2 is also very similar, obviously. They're all Shermans. It has the same armament, but where the difference lies is the armor once again. This thing gets extra track armor, which gives it an extra 20 millimeters in certain spots, which always helps. It adds a little bit of weight, so it's a little slower, but I think it's a worthwhile trade-off. The hull also gets a 10mm upgrade, and the turret stays the same. One more thing to mention about this tank is that it gets smoke grenades, which is super helpful because the previous two tanks didn't have them. The M4A2 sits at 4.0, which you can feel the difference for sure, but it's still just such a good tank. So I'm going to put it in amazing. Okay, and moving on to the M4 Bellator A3 105. So this thing changes quite a bit from the previous ones. Mainly in the gun, it gets a 105mm howitzer, which gets a heat shell at 130 penetration, and then an HE shell. Both are pretty effective in this thing, especially at 3.0. This thing's really quite interesting because it gets the hull armor of a 4.0 down at 3.0. So the armor on this thing is actually really good for the BR. It's almost a heavy tank, but I really don't like the howitzer. It's just a preference. I don't like howitzers so much because of the velocity of the gun. And another downside of this thing is the turret traverse is extremely slow. It's really hard to play because of how slow the turret traverse is. So the pros are the armor and the cons are the turret traverse and debatably the gun. So with that being said, I'm going to put this thing in average. I just think that the 75mm Shermans are a little better. Okay, moving on to the M10. So this is the first real different tank. This thing gets a really nice 76mm gun at 3.3, which you don't see again really until the 5.0 Sherman, which is saying a lot about this gun. It's really good. It's really effective at its BR. It basically one-shots everything. It gets an APHE shell with 150 pen. It also gets a 50 cal on the roof, so you can do a little bit of anti-air. As far as the armor goes, it's actually not horrible. You can bounce shots on the side of the turret here, and the front of the turret is about 90mm. You do have these little cheeks here that are pretty easy to penetrate, but it's pretty hard shot. And then the hull is 80 to 60mm effective with 20mm tracks. So it's not as squishy as you would think for an open top TD, and you can ricochet a lot of smaller guns off of this thing. One of the really bad things with this tank is the turret traverse. It's pretty well known that you might as well not have a turret on this thing because of how slow it moves. It's a lot like the 105 Sherman. But yeah, if you can get your gun on target and you hit, it's basically going to kill them. It also has decent mobility for what it is. It's about the same as a Sherman. But anyways, with all that being said, I'm going to put this thing in great. It's such a good TD for a 3.3, like the gun and a little bit of armor and the mobility. It's all just really good. If this thing had good turret traverse, I'd put it in amazing, but it's holding it back a little bit. Okay, moving on to the M16. So the M16 is an SPA. It has 0 armor. I'm not even going to go over it. It's really quick. The 50 cals do really well at 2.7. You get 4 of them, basically unlimited ammo, and yeah, there's not too much to say about this thing. You can pen like really lightly armored stuff, but I wouldn't really go tank hunting in this thing. And it's also very vulnerable to MGs. It gets killed really easily, but it does pretty well against planes. Not much more to say about the M16. I'm just going to put in average. It's easy to kill, it's just a truck, and the 50 cals aren't like super crazy, but they're pretty consistent and reliable. Okay, and then moving on to the T77E1. So the T77E1 is mounted on a Chaffee hull, I think. It looks like it. This thing gets 6 50 cals as the main guns. It's kind of like the M16 if it had a bit of armor and more guns. This thing's really maneuverable, and armor-wise, 50mm, like you're not going to get penetrated by 50 cals, but in the turret you will. Not much more to say about the armor. It's not good, but it's a little better than the M16. This thing sits at a full 2.3 BR higher than the M16, but the upgrades it gets match that BR increase. So with that being said, I'm going to put the T77E1 in average. It's good. Both of these are good for shooting down planes, but as far as it goes for killing any tanks, it's pretty difficult. You got to find a perfect target, essentially. Not much more to say about those. Moving on to the M5A1. Okay, so the M5A1 is a light tank. It can scout. It gets a 7.62 on top, not a 50 cal. This tank is pretty fun, but the 37mm definitely starts to struggle at 2.7. As a main gun, at least. Like with the M3 Lee, at least you have a backup option, but this thing, this is all you got. It also only comes with solid shot, so you usually have to shoot the enemy a lot of times to kill them, which is also another downside. But where this thing is actually quite good is in the armor, which you wouldn't expect from a light tank, but you're not getting penned by any 50 cals, at least not from the front, and you're pretty safe from the side as well. This thing can actually bounce a surprising amount of rounds. It also gets this 63mm plate, which is kind of trollish. Not that useful, but it's there. This thing's really quick, and it's quite fun to play, but the 37 does start to struggle. So with all that being said, I'm going to put this thing in great. I don't think it's amazing because there's a Chaffee. I don't think it's amazing just because the gun holds it back quite a bit. Anyways, moving on to the Chaffee. So the Chaffee is one of my favorite tanks in this whole game. It's extremely quick. It has a stabilizer at low speeds. It gets a 50 cal on top, a 7.62 in the turret. Not a lot of armor, but it is MG resistant from the front and from the side. Not much more to say about the armor, but this thing gets the 75mm that the M4 Shermans get, and it also has an APHE shot at 104mm of penetration. So this gun on a light tank that can scout and is really quick is just so much fun at 3.7. It's kind of hard to beat it. And yeah, that's basically all I gotta say about the Chaffee. I absolutely love this thing, and it's definitely going in amazing. I'm pretty happy with this, so that'll be the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think once again. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching. And also, let me know if you guys liked me going more in detail, or you just want to watch me put them in the ranks. Thank you, and goodbye.